Pal, good morning and welcome to the meeting of the Planning Committee being held on the 13th of January 2021. This meeting is being webcast with the exception of any business that the Council resolves to exclude the press and public because of the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by Local Government Act 1972. We'll just go through apologies and then I will hand over to the legal officer for declarations of interest. I have had two apologies from Peter Scott and from Peter Evans. If you know of anyone else that has given their apologies to you and you would like to unmute now and just tell us of any other apologies, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So we will move on to declarations of interest. So I'll just hand over to the legal officer, Tim Dillon, who will just run through the declarations of interest.
Okay. Good morning, members. Just working down the agenda. So agenda item 2 is in relation to declarations of interest. Does any members have anything to declare in terms of declarations of interest?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Christine Marston, I think.
Yeah, just like Betsy Cadwaladr's stakeholders reference group, and my son is a member of staff of Betsy Cadwaladr. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So just confirming that's a personal interest. I just missed the first little bit of it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah. Cynghoredd Emrys-Wyn.
Councillor Emrys-Wyn, good morning. Yes, I'm expressing personal interest, I think. I'm a member of Community Council, Health Council, and matters like these will usually come in front of us on occasions. And of course, it's important that we do keep our hands as clean as possible, as it were, for that meeting and also for this meeting. I represent the council on the Community Council, Health Council. Thank you.
So we just need to, as a reminder for those members, if you ever declare a personal prejudicial interest, you do need to fill in the form and sign it and get it back to. Yeah, you can do that. I think you can do that electronically, but it does need to be signed. We do need the actual document to get to us rather than just saying it as well. Okay, for our files and things. Okay, so, Cynghoredd Gwyneth Kensler.
Councillor Gwyneth Kensler.
Yeah.
Yes, I express an interest. I do know the owner of who lives at SALUSBURY.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. So that will be for agenda item number 5. Is that a personal or a prejudicial interest?
Personal.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr. Okay, so we're moving on to Councillor Mark Young.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My brother works for Betsy and it's Langford Hospital, Jockambau, and it's a personal.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ann Davis. You're on mute, Anne.
Okay. Declare an interest, please, in the agenda item, Betsy Cadwaladr. My son-in-law is a member of staff there.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I've got everyone now. So we will move on to agenda item number 3. Urgent matters as agreed by the chair. I do not have any, so we will now move on to the minutes of the last meeting, which are on pages 9 to 16 of the report. So, as always, we'll go through them page by page and also application numbers as well. So we've got page 9. If again, for any of these, if there's anything you want to query, then just unmute as we're going through them. Will be the easiest thing to do. Okay, and speak. So on page 9, we had application number 5, as well as on page 10 and 11 and 12. Okay, so that was application number 5 for Glaston Rithin. And then on page 13, we had application 6 and the start of application number 7. Page 14, we just had the annual monitoring report for the local development plan. Cynghorydd MARLWYN.
Councillor MARLWYN. Yes, could I quickly just refer to the report on the CLWYD application? It talks about the vote, but there's no, it doesn't show the numbers in favour and against and abstain. I'm looking at the Welsh version, of course. I haven't seen the English.
Okay, thank you for that. It is, yeah, it's the numbers are there in the English. There must just be an error in the Welsh on that one, so that can be altered. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you for that. Okay. So hopefully we all had the blue sheets sent over to them, sent over by email yesterday evening by Judith Williams, which has obviously got information about the running order of the day. Although I've had them printed out and they're white, it's very confusing. So we should all have that, and we can see the running order of the day we're going to go through. It's going to be 6, 7, 8, and then 5 and 9. Okay, there's quite a lot of information on the blue sheets. I'll just bring in Paul Mead, see if you want to say anything. Usually bring him in about this time of the meeting to welcome himself to the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Just check that I'm awake. I think that's what you do, isn't it, generally? Yeah, just checking. You should all have the late sheets that Judith emailed round to you yesterday. There is one item on there that officers are requesting deferral of, and the information is on the blue sheet referring to that particular item. As you say, there's 3 items that have got public speakers this morning, and we'll run in that order at 6, 7 and 8. So we'll be starting this morning with agenda item number 6. Thanks, members.
Okay, I've already forgotten to do something, which was get the minutes approved. So could I have somebody, again, if you can unmute, so I can see actually Councillor Alan James, and I can see Councillor Mark Young, so that's proposed by Councillor Alan James, seconded by Councillor Mark Young. We will assume that that's correct, unless if anyone wants to go against those minutes, then please speak now. So I'll just leave that for 5 seconds. So if you unmute and speak now, if you do not want to approve those minutes, and then we can figure that out, but hopefully they're okay. Okay, so they are now confirmed as a correct record. Thank you very much, members. So we are now moving on to agenda item number 6. This is on page 37 of the report. It is the ward is Denbigh Lower. The ward members are Councillors Mark Young and Councillor Rhys Thomas. The application number is 01/2020/0832/PF. The proposal is the extensions and alterations to existing dwelling, and it's an amended scheme. The location is GLANRAFON, Brookhouse Road, Denbigh. We do have a speaker on this item. The officer recommendation is to refuse on this one. I think you all had a supporting letter from the applicant, which was sent via email, and which is the little bit of information on the blue sheets for you there, which was quite a large document with quite a lot of photos and things in that. So the public speaker is Rhys Davis. So Mr. Davis, when you are ready, when you start speaking, I will start the timer here. It will beep when 3 minutes is up, so you will have to stop talking then. So if you've got a stopwatch or something yourself, it might be a good idea just to be timing yourself, because you won't be able to speak after the 3 minutes is up. Okay, so as soon as you start speaking, I will start the 3 minutes, and then it will stop after 3 minutes or whenever you finish. Thank you.
Okay, can I just check you can all hear me first before?
Yes, yep, we can hear you indeed. Okay.
Fantastic, okay.
Good morning all. I'll introduce myself in Welsh first before moving over to English for the rest of the speech, if that's okay. So,
Can I introduce myself and my wife, RHYL. Both of us were brought up locally near Denbigh, and after a period of being away, we moved back to the area, and we both now work at Ysbyty GLAN Hospital, and our children, Ellen and Mara, attend to Brant School.
We purchased GLANRAFON in February 2019, which had been vacant for several years due to the extensive structural repairs required, rendering it at the time inhabitable and unmortgageable. We were advised by a number of builders to consider demolishing due to the nature of the structural repairs and internal modifications required, but adamant from the start that this was not the path we wished to take. Together with our architect, Oshan Jones from Riffin, we proceeded with a planning application for a new extension, which would create our family home and allow our previously empty property be brought back into residential use. We fell in love with the property and the location, and strongly believe that to fully respect and give justice to the original house, the extension should have kind of a distinctly different feel while also blending harmoniously into the surroundings. We strongly and passionately believe that using steel cladding instead of render will achieve this and provide the distinction between the old and the new. We've also previously included the glass panel separation design between the old and the new parts of the building, as per Denbighshire's residential development guidance on extensions. While appreciating that during the time of the original application that this product wasn't widely known within Denbighshire, further research shows that it's becoming more common, with several recent successful planning requests within Denbighshire and also within North Wales, as we've included in the additional information we provided last week. So it's manufactured in Shotton, used in both urban and rural homes, meets building regulation requirements, and has several environmental benefits compared to traditional render. As well as high structural performance, steel is fully recyclable and allows the ability to include additional installation within the wall construction to provide higher thermal performance than K-rend. Throughout the project, we've always tried to work with local tradesmen, businesses and suppliers to support our local economy and reduce our carbon footprint. And there are professional fitters local to Denbigh who have vast experience in fitting. Our neighbours have been fully supportive of our design, and we've had no objections following local consultation on each planning application and amendment. So thank you for your time in considering our application for GLANRAFON, and I hope I've been able to demonstrate how the advantages of steel cladding will help us achieve our vision for this project. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Diolch, thank you very much. Okay, we do not have any other public speakers for this item. I don't think officers need to come in beforehand, so I will come on to the local member if he wants to come in first, which is Councillor Mark Young.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
We can see you as well.
Okay. Oh, well, sorry about that. So thank you, Chair. Diolch yn fawr. So I just want to give apologies for Councillor Rhys Thomas, who's in the panel today. So he's asked me to record his apologies and he's sorry he can't make it. But we have agreed on a joint statement, which we'll read out now, if that's okay, Chair.
Yes.
Okay. So having studied the plans, plus looked at the example stencils of other developments.
You are a little bit, sorry, you are a little bit shaky on this. It might be worth turning off your camera.
Okay, I'll do that now.
There we go. Beautiful.
Okay. How is that? Is that better?
Yes, in every sense.
See you later. Thank you. So having studied the plans plus the examples of approved developments using steel in North Wales, especially the Anglesey Gwynedd 1 Plasgwyn farmhouse, which has a similar extension to this, which I think looks fantastic. Myself and local member, Councillor Rhys Thomas, pass this property regularly. It's our view that this application is modern, exciting proposal, which will add already greatly to the variety of building styles in the Denbigh area. We cannot forever continue to build as though we are confined to some rural Victorian style of architecture. We are both supporters of this exciting proposed development, so I would like to propose accepting the approval of this application against officer recommendation, and I hope members can also. Thank you very much, Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much. So that is a proposal to go against. Do we have a seconder for that? Okay, that was I think there was a few, but I think we will go for Councillor Mervyn Parry just because he's the one that came on the screen for that one. Thank you. So just to clarify, the reason to go against officer's recommendation is that you feel that if we just go through the reason for refusal is that it's going against policy RD3. I just pull that up just so we're very clear on what we're doing. So it's the opinion of the local planning authority. It would not be sympathetic to the original dwelling and is therefore contrary to local development plan policy RD3 part 2. So I'm assuming based on what you've just said that you feel that it is sympathetic and it's not going against the appearance, the character and appearance, yeah?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we've had a seconder for that. Do we have any other speakers on this item? Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn and Cynghorydd, so I can see Mervyn as well. So Cynghorydd Emrys.
Councillor Emrys Wyn, first of all. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm seeing the plans, and it's been developed over a period of time, to be fair. I'm very aware that the applicants have worked with decisions in the past in order to ensure that there is an acceptable property here that they're hoping to get on this plot. I know the plots quite well. I do go for walks over there when I'm allowed to, and certainly you see that it very much does need some attention as it's currently is. In terms of the objection, the look of the building, well, the cladding, steel cladding, it's available in Ruthin, it's on the craft centre, and I'm afraid when it's a matter of does it look good or not, I think it's quite a subjective rather than objective matter, as everything else. You know, it's aesthetics, and most of it is out of sight at the back of the building, and as residents and neighbours aren't objecting at all either, I can't see any problem when supporting this, and I'm glad to do so. In addition, I do like seeing that the family is able to come back to live in the area. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you. Okay, Councillor Mervyn Parry.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask a question to the officers? One of them is policy RD3, when it was actually dated, when it actually was written, so we just know whether we're looking at a modern policy or an old policy. And my comments on this was to support it. You know, I like the idea of using new modern materials, especially when there's the benefit of them being local, recyclable. We can improve the insulation on this, and there's lots of properties that we're seeing even in our own county, like the hub in Denbigh and places like that, have got similar materials to them now. And I think we've got to look forward and putting the definition between a property that the Davises have managed to maintain rather than demolish, which would have been an easy option. So they're keeping the property, maintaining it, and working with the old with the new. So I like the idea of it, and I think we've got to embrace new ideas within the planning and materials. And I think that's why I support this one. But just answer my question on the policy RD3, please, and the date of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just bring in Paul Mead for that one to answer that question.
Okay, diolch, Chair. Thank you very much. Yeah, obviously members would be aware that the current local development plan was adopted in 2013. So the policies that you've got within your current LDP date from around about June 2013. I think from an officer perspective, you know, listening to what members have said this morning, Councillor Emrys Wyn is right. It is subjective a lot of the time with materials. I think what you've got to be careful of is maybe not necessarily comparing extensions on buildings like this to sort of new build commercial structures like the hub, for example, in terms of use of materials. But I think officers are aware that times are changing, and we need to adapt to different types of material that certainly have got environmental benefits. And it might be something that when you're looking to progress your new local development plan and looking for new policies to put in there, members should be making Angela and her team aware of any outdated policies that they feel they have. So yeah, I think from an officer perspective, it is subjective. I think, you know, what we don't want to do is set a precedent. We've been at this committee before with extensions to rural buildings where members have insisted we use slate roofs. And so, you know, we have to, it was a bit of a toss of a coin really on this one. So we can hear members' views. And we're not going to fight it any longer in terms of that. But yeah, certainly for the new LDP, Councillor Mervyn Parry, it's probably a good idea to try and alert Angela and her team to your thoughts on the use of other materials. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, very, very valid point that with, you know, especially being in the process of the new LDP, things that we can certainly re-look at. So perhaps things like this don't necessarily get to this point. I've got really useful actually on the Zoom is if you do raise your hand when you want to speak, because I can see on my iPad here, I've got you're on 2 pages, so I can see who's got their hands raised. So it would be really helpful if you do raise your hand using the buttons, and then obviously take it down when you have spoken, because I can see Cynghorydd Mabon ap Gwynfo's got his hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with what's been said, so I won't waste any of time on it. So hopefully it will be passed. There's no reason to object to this, just to point out that such cladding is on a house and roof on the house in Llanderfel, which is part of the Snowdonia National Park. So if it's a policy that can be allowed in the national park, then there's no reason why we can't allow it here. So I hope that it will be allowed as well. Thank you.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr for that. Okay, we've had a proposer, a seconder. Everyone that's had their hand up has spoken, so we're going to go to the vote. We will have to do this the way we've been doing it for the last few months. I will read out your names in alphabetical order by surname. Hopefully I've got everyone correct. Obviously, if I've missed out anyone by the time we get to Councillor Mark Young, who should be the last one, then obviously say straight away. So again, it's obliged for if you are in, if you're going with the proposal and the seconder, which is going against officer recommendation, but you still will say, so for if you want to grant, an erbyn against if you want to, that would be going with officer's recommendation, and then obviously a matel abstain. Okay, so if you could just be ready to unmute as and when you're doing that, so we can be as speedy as possible. Okay, so we'll start off, Cynghorydd Mabon ap Gwynfor.
For.
Diolch. Councillor Ellie Chard.
Obliged.
For.
Councillor Ann Davis. Thank you. Councillor Peter Evans has sent his apologies. Councillor Alan James.
Obliged.
For.
Councillor Brian Jones. Oh, okay. I don't think Councillor Brian Jones is here. Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Thank you. Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
For.
Diolch. Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mervyn Parry. Thank you. Councillor Paul Pendlington.
Thank you, Chair. As I was late getting into the meeting, I should abstain, but if I wasn't going to abstain, I would have said for, but on this occasion, I'll say abstain.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Scott sent his apologies. Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch. I am for. Cynghorydd MARLLWYN.
For.
Diolch. Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Thank you. If there is another councillor on the committee that has not made their vote yet, speak now. Okay, we'll just add those up. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we have obliged, 4 is 16. We have an erbyn against 0, a matel abstain 1. Therefore, that application has been granted. Okay, so we are moving now on to agenda item number 7, which is on page 57 of our reports. Okay, so page 57. So the ward is Trevenant. The ward member is Councillor Maida Lloyd Davis. The application number is 31/2020/0338/PF. The proposal is the erection of 3 affordable dwellings and 1 open market dwelling with a detached double garage, formation of 2 vehicular accesses and visibility splays, provision of associated car parking, landscaping, and the installation of 2 packaged treatment plants, a ground source heat pump, and rainwater harvesting system. The location is land adjoining MARLLWYN, GROESFFORDD, MARLI in Abergele. So we do have a speaker for this. So the public speaker for this is a Gordon Kenyon, who is the agent. The officer recommendation is to refuse this. So Mr. Kenyon, if you are here, then I'm not sure if you heard when I was first speaking to the first speaker, you have 3 minutes to address the committee. It might be worth having a stopwatch or something just by you. You can see that I've got the clock here. It will beep after 3 minutes and you will have to stop talking after that time. Okay, we are quite strict on that. So when you start speaking, I will start the timer. Okay, if you just want to check your mics working and things.
Thank you, Chair.
We can hear you, yeah. So I'll start the timer as soon as you start speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Salt, the applicants, have lived at MARLLWYN, GROESFFORDD, MARLI for more than 25 years and raised a family there. They're in the 60s and looking towards retirement. They wish to downsize to a smaller dwelling. Given they're going to build the dwelling on land adjacent to their existing home that they own, given the extent of the ownership, they are also in a fortunate position of being able to offer something back to the community, and are therefore proposing 3 affordable homes as well. These will also be built on land that they own and will be financed by raising funds against the existing property. Once the units are complete, the existing house will be sold to clear the finance. The applicants are happy to enter into a legal agreement securing the affordable housing for local need in perpetuity. They're also happy to be bound to have the affordable units ready for occupation prior to occupation of their own new dwelling. The site is within the area of search for affordable housing provision defined in the relevant policy, and the development would also be within overall growth levels set for the hamlet, and would help secure vitality of the local community and local services. The dwellings would be sited adjacent to existing cluster of development. There's clear unmet need for affordable housing locally, with registered interest for family housing on the housing register. It's also widely acknowledged that there is a significant need for affordable housing throughout Denbighshire, and also a very significant shortfall in housing land availability. In 2019, DCC identified a need for 155 affordable units a year. These are not being provided, and 57% of newly emerging households are unable to rent or buy on the open market. It's also widely acknowledged that affordable housing in the hamlets is unlikely to materialise in the absence of market housing to cross-fund provision. At a time of acknowledged need for affordable housing, this opportunity is too good to miss. Provision of 3 affordable units are proposed cross-funded by a single market dwelling. Usually many more open market dwellings would be required to cross-fund such provision. In assessment, planning officers seem to largely ignore considerations of weight, which clearly suggests that permission should be granted. They say the application is somehow speculative. However, this is not a site that is so remote and isolated that no one in need would wish to live there. The risk of these properties having to revert to open market dwellings is virtually non-existent. In conclusion, there is significant need for affordable housing in the local area, which is not being met and which is only likely to increase.
Thank you very much. You need to stop now, Mr. Kenyon. Thank you. Thank you very much. You did actually have an extra 10 seconds because it took me 10 seconds to press the button. No, thank you though. Okay, I'm going to bring in Paul Mead just to introduce this item from the officer's point of view. Thank you. And then I'll bring in the local member.
Thank you, Chair. It was just to alert members that obviously there is some information on the late sheets that were sent around yesterday, so it's important that you read that information. It's important also to recognise that the proposal is a single application for 3 affordable dwellings and 1 open market dwelling. The application obviously has to be looked at in its entirety. You couldn't split the 2 elements up in terms of the affordables and the open market. There's a lot of detailed information within your main report here. You need to obviously emphasise and look at the references to your local development plan policies, and there's a number of criteria within those policies. So I'd stress for members to try and focus on those as well. I do also have Lucy Duncalf within the Zoom meeting today. Lucy was the case officer on the application. So if I'm struggling to answer any questions of members, I'm sure Lucy will be able to jump in and help me out as well. So thank you, Chair. I'll hand back to you.
Okay, so the local member for this is Cynghorydd Mary-Clwyd Davies. So I see you've got your hand up as well. So I will bring in Cynghorydd Mary-Clwyd Davies now. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. And a chance here to have a 3 houses, affordable houses. Before I start, I'd like to correct some of the agenda. On page 83, Cefnmeriadog Community Council, not Trefnant Community Council. Page 84, again, bottom of the page, Trefnant Community Council, not as it says there, not Cefnmeriadog Community Council. If you could turn to page 89, under 1.44. There's a reference there to the Plas Newydd and Coed Plas Newydd and Plas Newydd Quarry. This isn't a quarry, it hasn't been so since more than 70, 80 years. The name that it goes by now is the Plas Newydd Nature Reserve, and it's important that we correct that. So to move to the application, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The report is an open market for. They're asking for an open market house on MARLLWYN, and on page 94 also 2 affordable houses. The closest dwelling to the site is BODELWYDDAN, which has been earmarked as a key strategic site in the local plan. They have colonized force people to live in BODELWYDDAN and kill the rural dwelling, the rural village of Cefnmeriadog, and turn it into a holiday home site. This would thwart the opportunity to house our young people or previous children who were brought up in the village, and forcing them to live in centres like BODELWYDDAN. According to the report, there is a need to improve the failings of the local plan 2016-20.
Turn off your camera.
Thank you. It's difficult for the translator to hear. The volume, the sound quality is not good. That's important, sorry. Right, we'll go again. Thank you. Are you okay up to there, Mr. Chairman? Yeah, that's fine. Yep. There we are. Yes, I was saying we need to improve the local plan. Hopefully the current members of the strategic planning group or the local planning group 2018-2023 will be able to have a better get the new plan into better shape to renew rural communities and not to thwart them with red tape bureaucracy. Page 93 refers here to filling in a small gap between 2 houses. But there's nothing here that says what happens when they're all full, or where all small hole has been closed. Where do we place houses in the countryside then? Page 95, the meeting of local needs. Usually people who want to live there, you're adding a red line tape here once again in the final paragraph before 4.22, doesn't allowing an agricultural house to retire to. Doesn't that come under the same heading? Let us renew and support the countryside to the future and not kill it. I feel perhaps that the officer is fair. It's fair to the officer that she is only going by the local plan that they have, but the houses are needed in the countryside. it's quite interesting also that the quality of the land is counted as a grade 2 and not to be built on. But this is an area where one is able to build an affordable house according to the local plan. So I don't quite understand that point. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your time, and to the committee as well. Right, thank you, Mary.
Okay, so with regards to that, yeah, just as you briefly mentioned on the agricultural land at the end, as you will see in the blue sheets, there is an additional reason that officers are suggesting for refusal. So important that if when we do get a proposal and a seconder and things, it will be just to make sure we'll probably be including that reason for the reason for refusal. So that's regarding the agricultural land. Okay, do officers want to come in on comments from the local member there?
Yeah, thanks again, Chair, and thank you to the local member for his comments. Obviously, if there has been some grammatical or issues in terms of reference to the Community Council and to the quarry at Plasnewydd, obviously we will rectify that. Apologies for any confusion there. I think Councillor Maida-Gloyd-Davies had made reference to a number of things within his speech there, which fundamentally sort of, he's almost highlighting some issues with your existing local development plan and hoping that within a new local development plan, certain policies can be amended. I do need to remind members that you have to make a decision today based on your current local development plan. And the fact that we've got a key strategic site in BODELWYDDAN, and that's factual, you know, a planning permission was granted on that site for 1,700 dwellings. You do also have other policies within your current local development plan in relation to the expansion of hamlets and the provision of affordable housing within the county, but there are strict criteria within those policies, which are set out for you quite clearly in Lucy's report there. I think that the planning history of this site as well is quite interesting and quite important. Obviously, the applicants for this particular proposal have made attempts to develop their land previously that's been resisted, and we have refused applications for dwellings on land adjacent to MARLLWYN before. I think the fundamental issue here, members, is that where an applicant for affordable dwelling in locations like this comes forward as a genuine local connections policy and a requirement for them to live in a particular location and they're the applicant, then that's where you can look to maybe expand small areas such as this for affordable housing. However, in this case, you've got two factors to consider. One is the application also contains an open market unit, which again, within your adopted policies, there are strict criteria which seek to resist open market dwellings in such a location. And then where you are proposing affordable dwellings, you've got to show that there's a justifiable need for that in that particular location as the applicant. And the applicants in this case clearly haven't done that. And that we've used the word speculative because effectively what they're doing here is that they've got land, they're looking to seek to expand their land with 3 affordable dwellings and 1 open market dwelling, but they haven't given us any sort of reason justification for that. And your policies clearly states within the relevant criteria of policy BSC 6 that they need to do that. So I'm happy to answer any further questions from members in relation to that. But I think members just need to be aware of the policy. Just going back to quickly on the issue of agricultural land, clearly where, you know, you have to weigh up the criteria in certain policies as well. And if there was an application where you wanted to give more weight to the provision of affordable housing to the protection of agricultural land, then you would maybe give that weight to the affordable units and it would be acceptable in this location. Here, the case that we've got here is that the principle of the development in this location does not meet your policy criteria, and therefore you know, you have to then give weight to the agricultural land classification even more in this instance because you haven't overcome the original principal criteria. So I hope that's clear in relation to the additional reason for refusal that we've put on the late sheet, but I'd be happy to answer any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Got a couple of speakers. Got Councillor Chris Marston.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a an observation, really, that the talk seems to be very much about the affordable housing. There is this very large, lovely house that's going to be stuck on the hillside, which will be very visible from the surrounding area. I also wanted to raise the sort of congestion that appears to happen on the school when the school gosh, I have terrible feedback here.
Sorry, Councillor Brian Jones, you're not on mute.
But yes, I wanted officers to comment about the congestion that appears to happen outside the school at school run times. The highways reports don't seem to focus on that, and clearly this is an issue in the middle of a sort of hamlet. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think they were comments, right? And rather than proposals or seconded, obviously got slightly interrupted by Councillor Brian Jones there. Councillor Mark Young next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just turned my video off. Okay, thank you. It's just Paul, to clarify. In the past, officers have quoted on the fact that Denbighshire hasn't met its housing need, and we know there's a policy for that. So I just want to ask that the fact that Denbighshire hasn't met its need, how much weight should we give to that, and how that fits into this application, please? Jock and Bow.
Okay, yeah, no, that's great. Thank you very much. Councillor Mervyn Parry.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions on this application. Dŵr Cymru Wales Utilities had an issue with some pipe or some services on this site. Was that rectified? Did they sort that out? Just going back to Paul on the BODELWYDDAN site, although there's a big site there for development, can I just remind everybody it hasn't been developed, and there are problems of developing it with actually putting the structure in to develop that site. So although it's down there as a big site, it doesn't look as easy to develop as said. And on the, if this was granted planning, again a question, with the house that isn't restricted, would it be possible to condition, if it went through, that another estate, because they've had a one house there that isn't restricted, that another application couldn't come in to build another 4 or 5 next to it? Thank you.
Okay, diolch yn fawr, thank you. Cynghorydd Mabon ap Gwynfor.
Thank you. There has been mention of BODELWYDDAN has been mentioned here, and of course the officer BODELWYDDAN hadn't talked about the has mentioned that, well, we need to talk what's in front of us today, not what will happen in terms of what will happen in the future in terms of the development plan. Taking that principle, nothing is happening in BODELWYDDAN at the moment. There is a need for affordable housing in that part of the patch, and considering that there are 3/4 of the houses on offered here would be affordable, that does seem to be something positive, certainly. So the question I have is, taking the term affordable housing, will 106 be placed on, section 106 be placed on these houses if they were to be allowed? Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you. Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Councillor Gwyneth Kensler. Thank you very much. I've listened very carefully to the local member, and I have a lot of respect towards his passion and his views. And so I would like to propose that we approve this application.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Do we have a seconder for that?
I will second.
So that's been seconded by Councillor Mabon ap Gwynfor. I'll just bring in the legal officer to go through some of the legal things on this case.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to this matter, so there's a proposal for going against officer's recommendation in support of the application. The legal issue, if you like, is that the application includes 3 affordable housing dwellings, and the application should have included evidence of a justifiable need for such housing in the locality. That hasn't happened, so you're going to have to be careful with your reasons as to why you are in support of the application in the absence of such evidence.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a couple more speakers, so we can. Oh yeah, okay. I'll bring in Paul Mead now, just because there are a few questions to answer, and then I can see all the hands raised, so I will bring those in a moment.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just running through the points that have been made by the members that were speaking previously. I think I'll start with Councillor Christine Marston. She raised the issue there of the visual impact. As you say, within the report, we have made quite clear reference to that as well. This is an open countryside location, attractive open countryside location. We've mentioned the agricultural land classification as well. We've got to stress, national policy within Wales is very restrictive to developing in these beautiful parts of open countryside locations. So visual impact is an issue, and you'll notice that within the report and the recommendation and the additional information on your blue sheet as well, on the late sheets there. We are really emphasising the issue of visual impact if you're going to allow dwellings in this location. Councillor Marston also mentioned the issue about the nearby school and the parking. We have had some information that had come through from local residents about that particular issue, and concerns that certainly from the affordable housing site that would be pretty close to where the school drop-off points are. Our highway engineers have assessed that, however, and we do feel as though the proposed visibility splay leading into the site at that location shouldn't give rise to any significant impacts on highway safety in relation to that rural road. Obviously, there's going to be peak times and some difficulties around a lot of schools within the county, but I think the development of the properties in this location, I don't think we could justify a reason for refusal based on highway impact, and that's why we haven't done that there. I know that there was a point made by Councillor Parry around Welsh Water and the comments that they'd made. I'm going to put Lucy on alert here to maybe just see if she could answer that particular question in a moment. I'll run through some of the others that were made to me as well. Obviously, Councillor Mark Young had made the reference about the LDP and the overarching picture around the need for housing and the weight to be given to that. You're absolutely right. Obviously, we've come to planning committee in the past with making reference to that there is an obligation on us to sort of meet our targets within the local development plan in terms of housing, but that's obviously not at any cost, and therefore, we do have to look at the other relevant policies within the local development plan for the expansion of hamlets, and as our legal officer has just said there, meeting the policy criteria in terms of the justification and the need. I think it's important, members, as well, that you are going through a review of the local development plan, but we do always consult with our strategic housing and policy manager on applications of this nature, and you'll be aware that we do have specific affordable housing officers within her team. So Jane Abbott, Sue Lewis, that you'll know well, they look at these issues in quite a bit of detail in relation to proposals like this. And clearly, if they're raising concerns and objecting, they're the officers that are governed with the task of actually making sure we get affordable housing in the county where it's needed, and they've objected. So that's quite a clear reference to the fact that we haven't had justification for this particular proposal. Councillor Mervyn Parry had also raised the issue about the key strategic site, and again, I just refer back to my previous point that it's the current LDP. It's an extant planning permission on that site for development. It was the strategy within that LDP. Whether it's going to be the strategy in your new LDP, that's for your strategic planning group to sort out, but it is factual. It's an allocated site in BODELWYDDAN, and it does have a planning permission on it. The other question from Councillor Parry was around, could we condition a restriction for any additional open market dwellings on this site? We can never do that. People have the right to apply for planning permission in the future for whatever they want in any particular location. So if there was a further application for an open market dwelling in this location, either on the edge of this particular settlement or elsewhere, then we would have to assess that on its merits. One of a more relevant question might be, you know, if we grant planning permission here, could the applicant then challenge any legal agreement to say that the affordable dwellings can't be filled and don't need to be used as affordable? Can we use them as open market dwellings? Well, yes, they could apply to vary their Section 106 agreement in relation to that. And again, if we haven't got any evidence that we can fill these affordable units, the chances are we would have to let them go to open market units through a variation of the legal agreement. So I think, again, Tim, our legal officer, might want to emphasise a little bit more on that. And I think that covers, again, Councillor Mabon, Gwynfa's comment about a 106. We can impose a Section 106 legal agreement on this particular proposal if members did want to go against officer recommendation. But I just have to emphasise that the legal agreement will be emphasising we need the affordable housing to meet our normal criteria for local connections and to be able to fill those affordable houses. And if our housing officers are saying that that's not going to happen, then there's an immediate challenge to that legal agreement, so it could be counterproductive. I think that answers all the questions that I had up to that point, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lucy, do you want to come in at this point?
Yeah, okay. Hello.
You're a little bit quiet, but yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So just regarding the water main, so that was actually running through the site for the market dwelling. Had some concerns that because that pipe needs a buffer zone, it needs 3 metre buffer zone each side. So the design of the actual market dwelling doesn't take that into account. So should the application be approved, we'd probably need to look at the design again, either working it around the water main or having the water main diverted completely. So that would be for the applicant to look into. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill, who's had his hand up for a long time. Must be hurting. All right, Councillor.
That's okay, Chair. Part of what I was going to say, actually, Paul said in his response now anyway, but I think the point that I really wanted to make is that whilst I have some sympathy with the applicant and those members who are looking to support this, this isn't, for me, an issue where it's an unbalance and it could be this, it could be the other. This is very clearly does not comply with our policies. And whether we disagree with the policy and want to change it in the future is another issue. The issue is we can only judge on what we have in place at the moment. And for me, I just couldn't support this because it would set too much of a precedent. So I think that's where I stand on this.
Thank you. Yeah, just going on to those points as well. I've had one in my ward, which was a new build, and it's had an affordable home in it, and it can't be occupied. So again, quite soon after it's being built, they are challenging that 106. So therefore, without the information or without the means of somebody being able to go into that, it could quite easily become a market, an open market house. So that's obviously something to be wary of. So the legal want to come in on that? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to echo what the planning officer has just said in relation to in the event that it was granted, as there are 3 affordable dwellings here, there is nothing to stop them in the future with the Section 106 to make an application to vary or indeed discharge that application. And then, of course, if they haven't accommodated a local need, then the agreement could be no more, and then it will go out to open market those properties. So there's a real risk of that happening.
Thank you. Okay, I have got, I note the local member has got his hand raised. I'll bring you in right at the end, Meirik. And I notice also that Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kent has got a hand raised as well. Because there has been proposed and seconded to go against officer recommendation, we just need to be very, very clear on the reasons for going against, because there are 3 reasons for refusal. So we just need a little bit more information on those. So if Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kenson and I think it was Mabon ap Gwynfor, just have a little think about those, just so that we're very, very clear, and I'll just check that those are okay at the end. So Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kenson, do you want to come in now?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ask, we are very close to reviewing our LDP. Is this a material consideration? Because if there are aspects that we will definitely want to change, then yes, sorry, just clarification, because of our being very close to the review.
Deal. I'll bring in Paul. I don't think it will be material planning consideration, but I'll bring in Paul Mead as well, just because also you mentioned, Paul, you mentioned something about rather than the local planning, you mentioned something about national policy as well. So is that likely to change?
Can I also there's so much has changed in our life and in Wales over the past years, with climate change, COVID, even Brexit. So perhaps national policies are going to have to be scrutinised once again. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Kensler. Yeah, the Chair is absolutely right. No weight can be given at the moment to any emerging local development plan while you've got the live one here. In the past, where you used to have unitary development plans, etc., there was a little bit of weight that could be afforded to an emerging plan, but that's not the case currently. So your LDP, your current LDP, is the only main material consideration that you can have here. You shouldn't have any regard to any potential things that could happen within a new LDP further down the line. Likewise, in terms of the national policy picture, yeah, you know, there's strategies around Wales, and certainly it will come into North Wales for sort of growth areas in the future. And planning policy Wales may change again from its current version. Whether it changes in relation to this type of proposal, it's more going to be to do with growth areas within Denbighshire as opposed to dealing with specific hamlets in national policy. So I think we've got to be clear. You've got a local development plan that you've adopted. There is a specific policy, BSC 6, in here, which is of particular relevance in terms of certainly the affordable housing. We're clear within our recommendation. I think we've answered all your relevant questions in terms of our reasons for refusal. I think the Chair has been pretty explicit there, having go back to the proposer and seconder for refusal. We'll need to be clear and have those reasons why you feel as though our reasons for refusal shouldn't be taken forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so again, I know the local member wants to come in. So if you want to come in at this point, this will be your final time to speak, and then I'll bring in the proposer or the seconder to clarify against the 3 reasons for refusal. Okay, so Cynghorydd Meirug.
Councillor Meirug Davis. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will turn my camera off just to restrict what's been said. You can put a 106. I would imagine you did do it with housing that for retired farmers and so forth. I'm sure there's a way of doing that with care, of course. This application is different to previous ones in as much as there are 3 affordable housing available, with section 106 attached to them, of course, to make sure that they are so. On 5.3, page 94, in English, it says occupants will not necessarily need to be registered on a housing waiting list. So that's important. We do allow also additional developments to pay for building, and that's what's happened with North Wales Hospital, of course. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you both for the proposal.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. So Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler or Cynghorydd Mabon ap Gwynfor, if you can just go through those. I think Mabon's just unmuted. So we'll go
if I could, as Gwyneth seems to be busy at the moment, could I propose that we do pass this and on the need for affordable housing, and that there's a 106 restriction placed on them as well. The reason I say that is because I have experience here, certainly in my ward, where somebody has been trying to fight to take away a 106 at the end, following 3.5 years of battling. That was they were successful in this case, and the need to take that 106 legally, it was very, very difficult for that person to get rid of the 106. If the need is proven to retain it, then the 106 will remain. Also, before 106 is removed, there is the need goes out to the neighbouring area, so that the neighbouring wards to Kevin Meriadog, they would be pulled in to see what the need is there as well. Local people, we know already that there is a need in Bodelwyddan, and you've said yourself that there's a plan, of course, that isn't developed because of those expensive elements, but that there are affordable housing needs there. What also we know that whilst large housing are allowed, where we have to allow 10%, developers try to pull that down and quite often succeed in pulling down reducing the number of affordable housing. So we're developing fewer affordable housing in this area, in this council, than needs be. We have here people voluntarily offering to develop 3 affordable housing for the community and the neighbouring community, for hopefully, if our economic plans succeed and jobs come to the area, for people who live in the area, young families who are able to work there and remain local. There is therefore a need. We ourselves in our policies as a county say that there is a need for us to have affordable housing. In the past, we said that we needed 30% affordable housing, pushed down close to 10%. This is a small step in that direction in order to ensure that local families are able to stay in their communities. That's why we, in my view, need to approve this today with the 106 condition placed on them. Thank you. Right, thank you.
That covers reason for refusal 1. We have reason for refusal 2 and reason for refusal 3. Which you also need to just clarify that you are happy to go against officer recommendation on the fact of the virtue of its design, siting and materials, because it's very important that we understand that officers are not refusing this on 1 item. They are suggesting on 3 items. So Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Councillor Gwyneth, do you want to come in those 2 items?
Well, I think it's already been mentioned previously that some aspects are subjective, and so whereas something might be acceptable to me, it might not be to other people. So I don't think that's a strong reason for refusal myself. Mention has been made of the water pipe. If this were granted permission, we'd have to put a condition on that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think if this went to be granted against officer recommendation, then we'd obviously need a further meeting regarding the conditions and things like that, and that we could that would be discussed. But we do need, so in terms of the second point, so you're just again saying regarding you think it is sympathetic to the existing development in the hamlet and it would not result in unacceptable visual harm. So so that's fine for item 2. Yeah.
I don't think it's an acceptable visible harm.
Okay, and then on additional, so the additional reason on the blue sheets is the site is located on grade 2 agricultural land. So again, you're happy to say that the need for the housing overrides the fact that it's on grade 2 agricultural land.
Well, we have examples in Denbigh where if it chooses the developer and it chooses the planning department to disregard agricultural land, then so be it. I think that again is something that it gets done. But of course, we're doing this on its merits. Agriculture is going to change. We can't be looking at agriculture with the misty eyes of the past anymore. But so I'm happy with what Mabon has said and what the local member has said. And so I'm willing to repeat that I support this.
Okay. So, and there's no other reasons for wanting to grant it other than what's already been said. Are we happy with that?
I'm never happy going against officer recommendation. I just want to make that plain.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We're just because there's 3 reasons, just to clarify it all. Yeah. No, that's fine. I'm just checking over to the legal officer to check those reasons are okay. So we've been through the 3 reasons as to why the proposer and the seconder are happy to go against, or not happy, are going to go against officer recommendation. So we've had the proposer, had the seconder, had a good chat about it. I'm just going to bring in Paul Mead now, and then we'll go to the vote on it. Okay.
Local member?
No, the local members come in twice, so I think he's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was just really for clarity, as ever. If members they have given reasons, and our legal officer has noted those. But if the application is approved contrary to officer recommendation, then obviously what would normally happen is we would bring a set of conditions either back to planning committee. Or we would agree them with local members. That's the normal procedure that we would have. Obviously, this might also be subject to, well, it would be subject to a legal agreement as well in relation to the provision of the affordable housing and possibly the delivery of the market housing as well, and the timing of things. I think just on that point, it's really important, Chair, if I may. I do want to read out our local housing strategy officer's comments on the planning application, because it just gives the context of what, those who are responsible for the delivery of affordable housing within the county, your housing strategy officers, what they've clearly said in relation to this application. So I'll just read that out briefly, if I may, Chair. It just says that the TITEG register shows that there is a demand for 2- and 3-bed houses in the neighbouring hamlet of Cefn-Meurig at intermediate rental, which is in the same ward, but there are no applicants for GROESFFORD itself. There was no one on the social housing list at all who had asked for Cefn-Meurig or GROESFFORD as a first choice area. This indicates that demand for this hamlet is very low. The hamlet's policy is quite clear that speculative building in the area is not allowed by the policy, and developers have to establish there is an identified need for affordable housing. Our policy is explicit in stating that applicants will be required to provide evidence in support of the proposed occupant's local connection, accommodation need and financial eligibility. Although the applicants state there is a need in the hamlet, they have provided no evidence to support it. Details of the proposed occupants are required under the policy. Registered social landlords would not be interested in taking on these properties without the provision of grant, as they feel demand is too low and the risk of occupancy voids, which would cost them money, is too great. Without the details of the proposed occupants of the affordable dwellings, strategic housing and policy planning could not support the application, as it is essentially a speculative build, which under the hamlets policy is not permitted. Building in hamlets is for an identified need to ensure the sustainability of the community. This has not been proven in this proposal, and speculative build of 3 affordable housing for the area does run the risk of defaulting to market housing if the proposed occupants are not clearly identified and satisfy income and housing needs criteria. I think it was important that I read that out just for the benefit of our local housing officers as well, so that they've made it really clear what their thoughts are on this. It would be really difficult for us to get a legal agreement set up for the affordable houses based on what that officer has said to us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I've seen Maidik, I think your hand has come up, so just
Yes, if you could. Just for brief moments, just to correct somewhat of Paul here. I don't like going against officers either, as you know, but I drew attention to page 94, 5.3, and it says clearly the occupants will not necessarily need to be registered on a housing waiting list. And fair play, Paul did draw attention that they do need to be according to what is said by the housing department. Thank you.
Yeah, I think just going slightly on from that, I think that the applicant, what the officer said is the applicant should have shown evidence to prove that. So if they weren't on a housing list, I think that evidence should have been brought forward, which I don't think it has been in this case. Is that correct? Anyway, we've had a very good debate on it. I think people have put the side forward for it, given the proper reasons as to why they want to go against officer recommendation. Officers have obviously had their say, so I think we've had a very good debate about it, and it's now for members to make up their mind on it. So if you do vote to go for this, to grant it, it will be alongside a 106, and I think for ease, because it is a slightly complex one, I think with the conditions we would bring back to committee, if everyone's happy with that, just because it's easier to do it that way, and then if it's simple, then it won't take very long at committee, just to keep it nice and clear and open. Okay, so it would be to go against officer recommendation with a 106 and to bring the conditions back to committee, or obviously if you want to go against in accordance with officer recommendation, that's obviously the option as well, or a Mattel abstain. Okay, so we have and cyntaf Mabon.
First of all, Mabon Gwynfor, if I understood it correctly, in favour of the plan. Yeah. Yes, in favour. For
granting it, that's fine. Councillor Ellie Chard.
Wide.
For.
As well. Councillor Ann Davis.
Against the application.
Against. Thank you. Councillor Peter Evans is apologised. Councillor Alan James.
To support officer refusal and be against this application. Thank you.
Against. Thank you. Councillor Brian Jones.
Oh, I'll abstain, Chair. I was late arrived.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tina Jones.
Against.
Thank you. Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
For.
Councillor Christine Marston.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
So for granting it, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep. Councillor Bob Murray.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Mervyn Parry. Against. Thank you. Councillor Paul Pemberton.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
Against.
Against. Thank you. Councillor Peter Scott. Apologies, not here. Councillor Tony Thomas.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Julian Thompson Hill.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Joe Welch. I am against. Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn. I have not heard you yet. You're on mute.
Right.
There we go. Yep.
Against.
And Councillor Mark Young. Against. Thank you. Okay. So we have four. And we have 4 for, one abstain, and 13 against. So that application has been refused in accordance with officer recommendation. Okay, diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much for that. We have got a couple more applications. We're going to continue if everyone is okay with that, because we have got some speakers on the next item. So we'll carry straight on. It is agenda item number 8. It is on page 103 of our reports. The ward is BODELWYDDAN. The ward member is Councillor Richard Maynon. The application number is 40/2020/0813/PO. The proposal is the development of 2.8 hectares of land by the erection of a use class C2 hospital building mental health unit to replace the existing Ablet unit, with associated landscaping, car parking and site vehicular access, and the erection of a multi-storey car park with associated works. It is an outline application. and all matters have been reserved. The location is CLWYD Hospital, RHUDDLAN Road, BODELWYDDAN RHYL, LL18 5UJ. We have speakers for and against on this, and I think they are both in the Zoom meeting as we speak. So I would just mention again, for both speakers, you will have 3 minutes from the moment that you start speaking. I have a clock in front of me. After 3 minutes, it will beep and you must stop speaking at that point. It might be worth just having a stopwatch or something so you can be timing yourself as well, because usually you'd have this clock in front of you if you were in the chamber with us. So the public speaker against, who will go first, is a Mr. CLWYD. So Mr. CLWYD, if you would like to start speaking, and then I will start the timer.
Okay.
Good morning, all.
Hope you're all well and your families are keeping safe. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of around 11 properties on here. I truly hope what I have to say will get across to the committee clearly. Back in August, our world was turned upside down. Emotions of disbelief, fear, sadness rippled through the estate on hearing this news. And all this has consumed much of our lives ever since, trying to reason with the planners and the health board why a unit of this size shouldn't be built at the proposed site, so incredibly close to us. Should a redevelopment go ahead, of course, we're not against the idea of improving mental health care, but please don't locate the building right behind our garden fences. So many of us here have young children. I want the best for my 4-year-old, my 2-year-old, and not just that, parents, adults, we want to continue to live in peace in our homes as well. We're fighting for a happy, safe, secure home and environment, or a life without that comfort and that security. We are desperate for you to see things from our perspective. Planners, contractors, they'll move on to the next project. The patients will come and go, but residents, we're here and we would live day and night with the building and the issues that would come with it. Incidents happen. We would always be afraid of what could happen. The risk would be increased for us residents, and our kitchens, living rooms, bedrooms, gardens, that half of the house would not be private anymore. As I said in my objection documents that I submitted, loss of privacy, light pollution, noise disturbances, trees and wildlife, safety, the list goes on. We had a solicitor involved and we reached out to the local MP who also fully understands our concerns. With panic and desperation setting in recently, I provided photos and videos from my own children's bedroom, drawing attention to the bare branches, the dead trees behind the property, demonstrating how seriously close and exposed we would be to this giant facility. We were eagerly hoping that the planners would consider another location where there would be no such impact on family homes. We realized logistical matters need to be considered depending on site location, but if the unit was located elsewhere, say at the northwest corner of the hospital, although there would be other short-term hurdles to overcome, the new building would be fully operational safely away from nearby properties. If the unit was built right here, it would create ongoing issues and issues that could harm our mental health too. To sum up, families would not feel safe in their own homes. Safety concerns, loss of privacy would result in real anxiety day and night. It would have a detrimental effect on our quality of life, and it would break our hearts if plans went ahead unamended. We're pleading to the council, please don't spoil what we have here. We implore you to show empathy and relocate the development. Thank you for listening. Diolch yn fawr am wrando.
Diolch yn fawr. Excellent timing. Okay, we have a public speaker for, which is Peter Campbell, who is the agent. So when you are ready, Mr. Campbell, you have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Can I check you can hear me okay?
Yep, all good.
Thank you. Good morning, committee. I'm Peter Campbell and I'm the agent for the application. We welcome the officer's positive recommendation. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the critical need for the proposed new mental health facility and how a design which is sensitive to its surroundings has been presented. The new Ablett unit would principally provide specialist mental health inpatient wards alongside supporting treatment facilities. The unit is vital to increase mental health care capacity and support the delivery of care for residents within the community. The existing Ablett unit building is now considered to be beyond its viable lifespan as a care facility, and it's not capable of continuing to provide for the high levels of specialist care required. The site is specifically allocated within the local development plan to support new community facilities, which includes planning for healthcare provision. The site has therefore long been established in planning policy to accommodate new development at the hospital campus. The applicant's team consulted the local community on the proposals prior to the submission of the planning application, with overall strong levels of support received. We have also engaged directly with the neighbouring residents to understand and to respond to their concerns raised. The proposals are presented in outline, and therefore design details will be presented to the council for consideration at reserved matters stage. However, detailed parameters, including in respect to scale and height, have been set out to establish that the building will have a suitable relationship with neighbouring properties. The building will be designed to step down in height to 2 stories on its southern side, where closest to the neighbouring properties. The proposals wholly comply with the council's supplementary planning guidance in respect to protecting privacy. The guidance states that a separating distance of 21 metres should be retained between directly facing windows, which can be reduced to 18 metres where direct overlooking would be avoided. The details presented establish that the hospital building would provide for a minimum separating distance ranging from in excess of 25 metres up to 42 metres from the closest neighbouring properties, thus exceeding the guidance requirements. Improvements to the significant band of existing trees and green landscaping on the southern boundary can further support the protection of residents' privacy. The officer's report concludes that proposals are acceptable in respect to residential amenity. The facility will be managed by experienced professionals and will incorporate modern security interventions to aid security for all. The proposed multi-storey car park will significantly increase parking capacity at the hospital, helping to address existing parking issues. To conclude, the application is wholly compliant with planning policies. The applicant has actively sought to understand the concerns of neighbouring residents and to ensure that residential amenity will not be unduly impacted. The proposals will be vital to support the local delivery of improved mental health care provision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do officers want to come in on this point? No, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to ask, I don't think the local member is present, Councillor Richard Maynard, but if you are and you want to speak, then unmute and speak now, but I don't think you are. Okay, I have got some raised hands, so we'll go straight into the committee. Again, if we just be aware, this is the outline application and all matters are reserved, so we just need to be aware of that and what that means. And if you need any clarification on that, then obviously the officers can come in and comment on that. We've got Paul here and we've also got Emer O'Connor as well on Zoom. Councillor Ann Davis, you're on mute, Anne, at the moment. There you go. Yep.
Okay. Just some comments I'd like to make. I think there is a need for a small mental health unit in at GLANRAFON Hospital. But if we remember, many years ago, they closed the North Wales Hospital in Denbigh because the preferred option of care was in smaller establishments and in the community. I do have concerns about a large institution-like establishment like this one looks to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. Let me just see. I can't see anyone. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Councillor Paul Penlington.
Thank you, Chair. I'll put my camera on if I can find it. Just bear with me a moment. There we go. Thank you, Chair. I agree with Anne's comments. I think this unit is a step backwards, really. It's a very, very large mental health unit. And I must say, I tend to agree quite strongly with the speaker against. The speaker in favour said there will be something like a 25-metre separating distance between the building and the new home and the homes that exist already. However, the multi-storey car park would be 10 metres high. That's a massive building, very close to residents, which I would be highly concerned about myself. Looking at the picture of the unit itself, it's also a huge building. It's going to block out any kind of light or view the current residents have got. As the speaker against said, it's going to completely overshadow their family life, their garden, their homes, their bedrooms, whatever, are going to be overshadowed by a huge building, a huge car park. The hospital itself are losing several large car parks to create a multi-storey car park. And I am going to vote against this. I think it's far too large. It's far too close to existing residents. There's plenty of other land around Bodelwyddan where it could be better placed if the hospital were a little bit more creative or looked around a bit. So yeah, although I fully support there is a strong need for mental health support services, I don't think this is the right solution, and it's certainly not the right location. Thank you.
So I'm going to bring in Paul Mead just to put you on notice, Paul, that obviously you're proposing to refuse it. So just before we go to Paul,
well, I wasn't proposing to refuse it, but I will propose to refuse it. In that case, I am proposing to refuse it.
Okay. We will need. You don't need to give them right now, but we do need the exact material planning reasons for refusal.
Give me 5 minutes to quickly.
That's fine. Do we have a seconder for that? Just as we're going through this, if anyone wants to unmute, I can't necessarily see everyone if you just are physically raising your hand. So if there isn't a seconder for now, that's fine.
I'm ready to second. Yep.
Cynghordydd Emily Swyn. Okay, I'm just going to bring in Paul Mead now because you might be able to just clear up what the actual application is for.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was keen to just get in before people propose and second stuff based on what Councillor Penlington had said, really, because he'd mentioned that there was a 10-storey, multi-storey car park close to residential properties, and it's not the case. If you check the plans, the multi-storey car park is on a completely different part of this very large hospital site. The closest building that would be to the residential properties that the speakers talked about on Forth Park Castell will be the mental health unit, which was made quite clear, I think, in the public speaker against his comments. And the building there will be a maximum of potentially 3 stories in height, but dropping down to 2 stories in height closer to the residential properties. So we just need to be clear before anyone starts making propositions and making decisions. The multi-storey car park is on a completely different part of the site, which is on the sort of main road end of the site as you access and enter GLANRAFON Hospital, where the car parking is existing. Just for clarity as well, as the Chair's alluded to, this is an outline planning application with all matters reserved for a further planning application. So the details of the siting and the design and the way the orientation of the building would be close to residential properties, the landscaping that could be put in to provide a buffer zone between the new buildings and where the residential property is, that's all for a separate different planning application that you would, as members, have the ability to analyse and assess and choose to agree with or not agree with in terms of the detail. Effectively, all that you're looking to do here today is agree the principle of having these 2 buildings on this existing hospital site, remembering that there is an existing mental health unit on the GLANRAFON site. So I think in principle, you'll find it difficult not to accept that another mental health unit to replace that on the GLANRAFON site is acceptable, albeit you've got to have consideration to the location of that building, which is close to the residential properties on Forth Park Castell. But just for clarity, for Councillor Paul Penlington's benefit as well, the multi-storey car park is not in that location. It's at a completely different part of the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just for clarity, can you get up page 100? If we can all just look at page 105. Just asking if officers could do that as well, just to make us very, very clear, myself included, which is why I'm asking. On page 105, we've got 3 outlined. We've got 2 car parks that have got a nice big bold outline, and then we've obviously got the outline which has got more smaller rectangles and things on it. Paul, could you just clarify why each of those 3 are in bold and where the new proposals are supposed to be? That would probably help us as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm looking at Emer as well on this one as the case officer. She might be able to come in and help as well. But from my understanding of what's shown on the plan on page 105, where you've got at the sort of top right of that plan where it says car park, my understanding is that that's where the multi-storey car park will be going. The additional car park then to the sort of left of that plan, that's where my understanding is that the mental health unit will be going, and that's where obviously where you can see the residential properties just to the south of that car park. And my understanding there of the other sort of almost squiggly black line is where the existing ablet unit is currently. I think I'll just double check with Ema, but that's my understanding of that plan. Thank you.
Yeah, so Ema, do you want to just come in, just so we all know what's being built and where it's being built?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I'm on the same plan, so just bear with me.
That's okay. We're looking at page 105 of our reports. If you're looking at my screen rather than the council one, then I've just got it. I've just pulled it up in front of me there. So yeah, I think as Paul said, that there's it's where the ablet unit will be, the new unit will be built, will be where on the sort of the largest one that's been highlighted in bold on that one. If that's not correct, Ema, if you can come back to us at any point, but I think Paul's got it, because I've got Councillor Mervyn Parry to speak.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of things on the objections or whatever. I could see Dŵr Cymru, did we get anything back that's Dŵr Cymru were happy with it because they had objections, wanted clarifying? The highways wanted a management plan. Has that been done and does it work? Public protection with the noise level report, again, has that been done and is it going to work? And with the flood risks on the site, I can see that National Resource Wales haven't made any comments. Has there any SUDS reports been done on this site? Because the site's getting bigger. There's a lot of water comes off the roof of this buildings with heavy rain. Where does it go to? And have they done the work to see if it all goes into a drain and is not likely to cause any problems to nearby property or land? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I did forget to mention, actually, there's quite a lot of information on the blue sheets on the email from last night. There is a little bit about from Dŵr Cymru there, but there's also some additional conditions as well suggested on there. So that's worth reading through. Okay. I've got Cynghorydd Emrys Gwyn. Oh, sorry, Ema, do you want to come in now?
Yeah. While people are just checking out the blue sheets, I just can confirm, sorry, that just took a few minutes to load up the plan. It was stuck. The layout, as Paul said, is right. So the car park is the top right-hand side. That's the proposal for the car park site. The existing ablet is the squiggly, that's the actual building layout. And then the proposed mental health unit is on the, the western side, the left-hand side of the site.
Perfect. Yeah. So the new ablet unit will be where there is currently is a car park, and that will be where it's built. Yep.
And it's the neighbouring properties are below that. That's.
Yep. So on our map we can see sort of 92 and then 82 and 78 and 70. Those properties there that will be the closest to the new unit. Thank you very much for that clarification. Okay. We've got a few more speakers. Cynghorydd Emrys Gwyn.
Councillor Emrys Gwyn, thank you very much. Yes, I've been thinking about this application since I read it and reread it last night, and also during the discussion. Nobody, I think, in this meeting today would object to on the basis that they're not questioning the need for such a facility for all patients in hospitals like this. But we know that there's exceptional work that goes on in units such as the current ablets. The only concern I have is privacy, not just of the people who live on the Parc Castell, but also residents temporary residents who would also be at this unit. I understand this 21-meter distance, well, I understand that fully, but we must remember that the land, the gardens also, there might as well be an extra room for many people, and there are conversations that happen and there are things that go on there that are part of the assistance that people get. And I would argue strongly that any property that has a garden that backs onto another garden, then there is going to be that privacy are going to be at stake. And looking at the map on page 105, I would appeal of the Health Authority to revisit this and to re-site this necessary site in another more appropriate place for all, including residents of the unit and also residents of the community. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you. Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Councillor Gwyneth Kensler. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm having problems with the plans this morning. So I've got just a few questions. TAWL-VAN. Is TAWL-VAN part of this development? Is it going to be affected at all? Because I believe TAWL-VAN is different from the ablet, isn't it? You've talked about it's the principle now, the details will come later. Well, from experience, being on planning, then that is too late, because we'll say, well, you've agreed the principle. And so we have to fit in the details. Now is the time to get this right. Mental health, and there's been an awful lot of discussion about mental health over this past year and probably going into this next year as well. And I think someone made reference to mental health being located at the North Wales Hospital site. There you had the outside was deemed part of the cure, part of the therapy of recovering from mental illness. And indeed, patients used to talk about this, just about being able to walk around outside, and perhaps if they wanted to scream at the top of their voice, fine, but they had the trees, they had the nature. And I think these, as well as chemicals and other things, the outside, the well-being is very, very important. So we've got to get this right, this site right, for the people who will need to use the facilities and for those who live in the area. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr. I'll just bring in Paul Mead to answer a few of those questions and comment on the comments.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I think I can sum this up really quite briefly in terms of some of the questions that have already been asked. I think from Councillor Parry's perspective, the issues that were raised there about sustainable drainage, obviously there'd need to be a sort of SUDS approval as part of this. There are conditions on the late sheet there in relation to drainage scheme. So flood risk and drainage is accepted, and we've had further comments from Dŵr Cymru on that, and a drainage scheme will need to be submitted. Again, same for a sort of highways plan in terms of the certainly construction and environmental management plan. That would be part of the conditions as well. So I think in relation to Councillor Parry's points there on drainage and highways, we're covered, and we deem those to be acceptable. It's got to be remembered that, you know, as a planning committee, we've got to deal with the planning proposal that's before us here. Any sort of strategies around the use of the former North Wales Hospital or what Betsy Cadwallader are doing here, they're not really material planning issues. You've got to look at what's before you. It's an existing hospital site. They want to reconfigure this existing hospital site and replace the existing mental health unit with another mental health unit. Will it be too late when we're dealing with the actual details of the design and siting of buildings? Well, no, it won't. You will have another application. You'll be able to look at those details there. You'll be able to look at where windows are going, where the landscaping's going, where the parking's going. You'll be able to look at the design of the buildings. And if you're not happy with it, you can refuse that reserve matters application at that time. All we're looking at today really is the principle of the multi-storey car park in the location that I emphasise is at the front of the site and not where the residential properties are, and you're looking at this new mental health unit. Councillor Kensal raised this issue about Tawel Van. I'm not 100% sure that I can answer that in terms of whether that will be affected. Again, we've got to look what's before us here as a planning application. It's not about the whys and wherefores of what Betsy Cadwallader are doing in relation to mental health care within the area. We've got to look at the planning proposal. And I think officers have made a clear recommendation. I think you've heard from both speakers, so you're aware of what the issues are in relation to the need versus the impacts. We've put a lot of information on the late sheets for you. I'm happy to answer any more questions as is email, but I think you just need to focus on the planning proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So just to clarify, in terms of the building, we are, if we did grant it today, we are basically saying there can be a building of some descript on that site. So we couldn't then come back on the reserve matters and say we don't want a building there, but we obviously have the right to say what the building, how tall it should be, how close it should be to houses and things like that.
Yeah, just for clarity, what applicants do with these types of proposal where they're in outline, we do have to ask them to specify what's known as a sort of parameters plan. So, you know, if they came to us and said, well, we want the mental health unit to be 12 stories high in that particular location because we've got to accommodate a certain number of people in there and certain number of space, then we would have to look at that parameters plan today and decide whether that's going to be acceptable or not. But the parameters that they've set out within the plans that they've show a maximum 3-story dropping down to a 2-story height building where the mental health unit will be. If members feel as though that parameters plan is unacceptable, then again, you've got the option to refuse planning permission today on the basis that they feel that the impact of that building and that sort of location of building with those parameters in that location is unacceptable. But I do need to stress that we don't know what the design of that building is yet. There will be a further application that will show the design, it'll show its siting, it'll show its materials, it'll show the windows within that planning application. All that they've had to show us at the moment is these parameters of the proposed buildings. Hope that's clear, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. That's fine. Thank you very much. Okay, so I got Councillor Mark Young wants to ask a question.
Okay, I'll turn my video off. Okay, so just for clarification, you're saying this is an outline application. Can you just confirm that for me, Chair?
Yes, yeah, outline application. So as Paul's just said about what we would be able to come back to committee, and they have given parameters, so that's something to be looking at, but not specifics.
Okay, so I just got a point on there, because there is a hospital in this area and they've knocked building down, etc. Does it need outline? It feels very strange to me, Paul, so it might sound like a strange question, but it doesn't sit comfortable with me. I don't understand an outline with no details when there's already a facility there, so you can answer that. And your paperwork talks about a letter from the MP. It's just to confirm which way does that go? Does it support or not support? I think that's really important that you've mentioned it, but you don't tell us. And I am disappointed that the local community council hasn't responded. That must be very disappointing for the local residents. So them points, please, jot them down.
Yep, thank you. Bring in Paul Mead for that.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's a very good technical question that our lead member has raised there around why do we have a plan application here, because it's outline. I mean, we can't refuse to accept and validate an application as submitted to us in outline form or in detail form. And in this instance, I think if maybe Betsy Cadwallader had maybe advanced their plans a bit further than what we would have received, might have been a full planning application. But I think what they wanted to do was establish the principle. With a site of this size and the scale of the development that's proposed, it's enabled them to go out and do some planning application consultation with the community. So I think from a sort of PR perspective, it was probably the right decision on their behalf to submit an outline application. But you're absolutely right. The principle of these buildings is largely established on this site. There are already car parks. There's already a mental health unit. So I hope that answers your questions on that. In terms of the comments from the MP, I think they have been mentioned there. And I think from my understanding is what he wanted to do. He didn't want to say in favour or against, but he wanted to just highlight the comments that have been made by local residents and shares their concerns. I think that's what's been said from the local MP. And yeah, it's obviously always disappointing if we don't get a response from a local community council, because obviously their comments are really beneficial from a local impact perspective. I don't know, Emer, is there anything else you want to add to that, or have I answered all those points clearly?
Yeah, I think you've covered everything there, Paul. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cynghorydd Emrys-Wyn, got your hand up.
Councillor Emrys-Wyn. If I can respond quickly to what I've just heard now, if there is an element of PR as a background to present this outline plan, I hope application. I hope that whatever the decision today, that the Health Authority will go back and consult further with residents. I would also have liked to have heard what the view is of the local member on this, because you know his ears are also very close to the ground, and I would have appreciated to have heard what his views, what his representation would have been of this as well. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Yep, that's okay. So let me just check to see whether we've got any other hands up. Okay, we obviously have had a proposer and a seconder to go against this. We obviously need the reasoning behind that, and then I'll need to just check with the legal officer that those are material planning reasons. So, Councillor Paul Penlington, I've given you more than 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. My understanding, outline planning permission is basically giving permission of them to build something on the site. So if we grant this today, we are giving them permission to build on that site. Their proposal of what they want to build, I think, is unacceptable for the reasons I am about to list. It's far too large. It's far too close to existing residents. Between 25 to 40 metres was quoted. That is far too large. That's about the length of my garden, and I don't live in a mansion. It's far too large. It's far too close. It will overshadow houses. There will be quite a substantial loss of privacy, a substantial loss of light. There will be a lot of noise from such a large building. I understand there are plans to put some sort of plant on the roof. And a 64-bed unit, that will be an awful lot of people coming and going all the time. It will be busy with staff and residents. There's potential for the building to be unsightly for them to look at. There's proposal for perimeter fencing, which will be unsightly. The Wellbeing of Future Generations Act should be considered in terms of existing residents. Their quality of life will be affected, their home life will be affected, and as the speaker again said, their mental health may well be affected by having to look at such a large, noisy building pretty much at the bottom of their gardens. So those are my objections.
Okay, thank you. It was seconded by Cynghorydd Emrys-Wyn. So are you comfortable with those? And then I'll just bring in the legal officer just to check. And is there anything further you want to add? Cynghorydd Emrys?
Can't hear him.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
No.
Yeah, no, I can see the speaker going up and down. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you, yeah. It might be because you speak in English and usually speak Welsh, so it might be the translation.
I can speak English as well. It's really what Paul Pennington just said now can be encompassed in the parameters also, as Paul Mead mentioned. My objection is basically the parameters are not acceptable at the moment. The layout of it, etc., at the moment is not acceptable. And I'm hoping, once again, that there will be a solution at the end of this journey that will be satisfactory for everybody.
Okay, I'm just going to bring in the legal officer to check he's okay with that before we go to the vote.
Well, thank you, Chair. Are there any other reasons, or do you wish to clarify those reasons further?
We will.
The proposer.
Yeah, Paul, you happy?
No, those are my reasons as stated. I think that they are substantial planning considerations.
Okay. Okay. I'm just going to bring in Paul Mead for that, but yeah, the legal officer's happy with that. So just bring in Paul Mead.
Yeah, I'll turn to Tim briefly on that. Just for clarity in relation to you know, what we're dealing with in terms of the outline plan and application. We've got to be careful when we're giving reasons that we're not preempting something, because we haven't got details of plant on the roofs. We haven't got details of fencing. So to say that they're going to be harmful to residential amenity is a little bit premature in relation to that. I think Councillor Emrys-Wynn's points were a little bit more usable, if I can use that word, in terms of the clarity on it, because he's mentioned the parameters plan, and he's mentioned that he's got concern about the potential for a 2 or 3 story building in proximity to the residential properties at Forth Park, Caster. So I think that's a valid reason to go against officer recommendation on the parameters plan as submitted. But I think we've got to be very careful by actually saying that details of fencing, noise, you know, overlooking, loss of light, privacy, etc. We can control all those. We haven't got those details at this point. So I think Councillor Pennington needs to be careful on those ones. But I agree with Councillor Emrys-Wynn's comments. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, it's more about being.
I'm happy to go with whatever Emrys said. I couldn't hear it, but I agree with it.
Okay. Yeah, it's about the parameters, isn't it? So it's outside the parameters that you are comfortable with of there being a building on there. Because I think, as Gwyneth Kensler said, you know, sometimes when you get to the reserved matter, you almost feel like it's been granted, and I think that's because of the parameters. So if, as you've said, you're uncomfortable with parameters, that's a valid reason for refusal. And that's the one that members will need to be voting on. So we will go to the vote. And again, so if we just be very, very clear with this, if you vote obliged for, then you will be voting in accordance with officer recommendation to grant, alongside all the conditions that are put on the blue sheets and also in the main report. If you are voting an erbyn against, you are voting against this proposal, and you are voting for it for the reason that you are not happy with the reason for refusal is parameters around the size and location of the building are not acceptable. And if you are voting to abstain a matal, then you're voting to abstain. Okay, so we will go through the voting as per usual. So Cynghorydd Mabon ap Gwynfor.
Against.
An erbyn against. Okay, Councillor Ellie Chard.
Against.
Against, thank you. Councillor Ann Davis. Against, thank you. Councillor Peter Evans, not here. Councillor Alan James.
Obliged.
Or, thank you. Councillor Brian Jones.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Tina Jones.
Against.
Thank you. Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Against.
Councillor Christine Marston.
Or.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin Mile.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Bob Murray.
Against.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Against. Yeah, sorry Mervyn, it's quiet. Thank you. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Paul Penlington.
Against.
Councillor Peter Scott's not here. Councillor Tony Thomas has left. Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Joe Welch. I am for. Cynghorydd Emrys-Wyn.
Yes, against. Can you hear me? Yep, against.
Against, diolch. And Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have in total 6 obliged, 4. No abstentions, and 11 against. Therefore, that application has been refused, contrary to officer recommendation. Okay. So that concludes the agenda items that had public speakers. We've still got 2 items left, although I think the last one will be very, very brief. And I don't expect this next one to be too long. So if you're okay, we will carry on, because I think we might only be about another 15 minutes rather than having a 15-minute break now, if everyone's happy with that. So we are moving on to agenda item number 5, which is on page 17 of our reports. And the ward is Denbigh Lower. The ward members are Councillors Mark Young and Councillor Rhys-Thomas. The application number is 01/2020/0808/PF. The proposal is the erection of a single-storey flat roof extension to the rear of dwelling. The location is 47 Salisbury, Denbigh, LL16 3HN. There is, again, on the blue sheets, we just look, it's right at the end. There is a little bit of information on there. The officer recommendation is to grant, and the officers are suggesting an additional condition and the reason for that condition. So if we were minded to propose it, if the proposer just wants to mention whether they're happy with adding on that additional condition, if they were minded to propose to grant this application. Okay, I will move, I'll go and bring in the local member, Councillor Mark Young.
Okay, just for clarity, Chair, can you make sure what that condition is, just so I'm absolutely clear, please?
Yeah, I'll read out the condition. It's the condition 3 is notwithstanding the provisions of the Town and Country Planning General Permitted Development Order 1995 or any order revoking and reenacting that order with or without modification, no windows or door openings shall be inserted at any time in the southwest side elevation or of the extension hereby permitted unless otherwise agreed in writing by the local planning authority. And that's in the interest of residential amenity.
Okay, Chair. Thanks for that. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah, okay, sorry, it was a bit poor there. So I've gone through this, I've looked at concerns of the town council and the neighbour, but because the extension is a flat roof, I believe they've done their utmost to help with the concerns, and also the condition you've mentioned. I'm happy to approve, but would like that condition you just mentioned as part of my motion, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So that has been proposed. Do we have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Bob Murray. Do we have anyone that wants to speak on this item? Can't see anyone with their raised hands. Officers are okay with this one. So if we're all happy, we will go to the vote on this. Okay, so I think Mabon's just said he's left. So just checking, looking at my list, yeah. Okay, so we'll go to Councillor Ellie Chard.
Obliged.
For.
Councillor Ann Davis. Haven't heard you yet, Anne, sorry. Thank you. Councillor Alan James.
Obliged.
For.
Councillor Brian Jones.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Thank you. Horace Gwyneth Kensler.
Councillor Gwyneth Kensler.
That's candidate or dead.
Expression of interest.
Okay, if it's just
declaration of interest.
Vote on it though. Deal.
Okay, 4.
Christine Marston, Councillor Christine Marston.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin Mile.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Bob Murray.
4.
Councillor Mervyn Parry. Mervyn, go. Okay, I'll just put down apologies for Councillor Mervyn Parry. Councillor Paul Penlington.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
4.
Councillor Tony Thomas, I think, has left and hasn't come back. Still got him down on the list, but Councillor Tony Thomas, if you're there, he has said he had to go, so okay. Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Joe Welch. 4. Cynghorau Emlys Wyn.
Councillor Swin.
I don't think I missed this. I would have voted in favour of it, but in terms of consistency with the protocol, I will abstain.
Diolch yn fawr. Thank you. Councillor Mark Young.
Oh.
Thank you. Okay, so I know what the result is, but let's just we had one abstain, we had nobody against, and we had 14 for. Okay, so that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. The last agenda item we have is agenda item number 9. And as you can see, we're not going to enter any debate into this initially. We may do, but we're not initially. I'll just introduce the item anyway. It's on page 133 of our reports. The ward is released. The ward members are Councillors Barry Mellor and Councillor Tony Thomas. The application number is 45/2020/0897/PF. The proposal is erection of one dwelling, detached garage, means of access and associated works, and it's the land at the rear of 2 Elm Grove RHYL, LL 183PE. As you can see, the officers have requested deferral of this item because the applicant wishes to amend the proposal plans and they need to do a short 14-day reconsultation exercise, and therefore they are recommending that this item is deferred. So if any members... Thank you very much, Councillor Bob Murray. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, happy to second.
Okay, I'll race through. I will just go through this as we need to take an official vote on it, okay? And then we'll be all done. Okay, Matt Bond's gone. So Councillor Ellichard, if we're for, against or abstaining for the deferral. So
For deferral.
Thank you, Councillor Ann Davis.
For deferral.
Thank you, Councillor Alan James.
Yeah, for deferral.
Councillor Brian Jones.
Defer.
Thank you, Councillor Tina Jones.
For deferral.
Thank you, Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Thank you, Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
Thank you, Councillor Bob Murray. Councillor Mervyn Parry. Thank you, Councillor Paul Pendleton.
For.
Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas. Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch. For. Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn.
For.
Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Did you ask me, Joe?
I did ask everyone, I think, but anyway.
Sadly, I think you did miss a chair. Sorry.
Oh, did I?
Oh.
Sorry.
It was me last time.
Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Councillor Kensler, yes. For.
Funnily enough, I put a tick by you. Yeah, I think I did miss you. Apologies. Okay, I was trying to race through it so quickly so we can finish the meeting. Right, so that was a 16 for deferral. Nobody against and nobody abstaining. So therefore that item has been deferred. And that concludes the meeting at 11:45. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much for sticking with it today. It was a good one. A lot of good debates on that. So thank you very much all. So take care and feel free to leave. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Good to see you all. Bye now.